Oops. So let us start with the Mangalacharan prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtapraeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatir Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarajata Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Shri Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vamcha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin iti namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Welcome all Prabhujis, Matajis, all the devotees to today's discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, continuing with chapter 17. Can we request all the devotees, if you are comfortable, please keep your videos on so that it is active participation in the class. And request all the devotees, you can be in proper dress. Okay. and then keep the camera on. Hare Krishna. So we saw as part of our discussion so far on this particular chapter, which is entitled The Punishment and Reward of Kali by Maharaj Parikshit, how Maharaj Parikshit saw this very peculiar sight uh, of which was not seen any time earlier, of the bull who was representing the dharma and cow who was representing the mother earth. They were being persecuted and mercilessly harmed, hurt by the personality of Kali, who was dressed like an exalted kshatriya, like a king, but who was committing an act lower than that of a shudra. And we saw the detailed conversation between Maharaj Parikshit and Dharma being represented by the bull in terms of what who was the exact cause, who was the exact perpetrator for the hurt that was meted out to Dharma and Mother Earth. And we saw uh, in quite detail how Dharma clarifies to Maharaj Parikshit that what apparently meets the eye as the perpetrator, through which one is getting the miseries, one is getting the difficulties in our life, that person is not actually the perpetrator, but he is simply being an instrument. And how an intelligent person should accept the difficulties, should accept the reversals in our life as the mercy of the Lord, and which consumes our papa karma, which consumes one's sinful reactions. And thus, if one continues in one's devotional service, accepting the reversals patiently, then one becomes eligible to attain the mercy of the Lord, attain the Lord's abode in the end. Such a devotee becomes a valid claimant. And we also saw on the other side those persons who claim somebody else to be the perpetrator, somebody else to be the cause of their own distress. Then such a person is also accumulating the discredit, uh, accumulating the sinful reactions, and the destination will share also the destination similar to that of the perpetrator. So we saw all the details. And then finally, in the last part of this particular chapter, we now see Parikshit Maharaj, after having pacified the bull and the earth, now about to get ready and punish the Kali Purusha, despite the Dharma not identifying the Kali Purusha as the cause of his miseries. So we also discussed in part of the as part of the conversation between the bull, the Dharma, and Maharaj Kali, different pillars of religion. So maybe we can quickly revise those pillars. Anybody would like to uh, mention one by one what are the pillars, and whoever wants to answer can raise your hand, and you can refer to Srimad Bhagavatam, you can refer to your notes or the slides. What are the four pillars of religion that Maharaj Parikshit identifies, and out of which three pillars have already been destroyed as part of the degradation? One by one. Adish Prabhu, you can mention one.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, pranams.
Hare Krishna.
Cleanliness.
Cleanliness. Okay. So, okay. Cleanliness is one. What else? Venkata
Cleanliness.
Narsi. Wait, Prabhuji. Adish Prabhu, wait.
Austerity.
Sorry.
Austerity.
Austerity. So, tapas. Tapas is one. What next? Usha Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, mercy.
Yes. Austerity, then daya. What is the second one?
Truth.
Truthfulness.
Tapas, shaucham, daya, satyam. So, shaucham is the cleanliness. Austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. Yes. And I don't think we would have Murli Prabhu today, because I got a message from Murli Prabhu yesterday. He has got a convocation of his daughter, who graduated with a very good grade. She got a very good rank. So Murli Prabhu had asked this question, that in what order these four pillars of religion were destroyed with the degradation of individual ages, namely Treta Yuga coming after Satya Yuga and Dwapar Yuga coming after Treta Yuga. So it is in the same order that we recite in the verse Tapas, Shaucham, Daya, Satyam. So Tapas, the austerity pillar, got destroyed at the beginning of Treta Yuga, and then Tapas, Shaucham, that means austerity and cleanliness, these two pillars got destroyed with the beginning of the Dwapar Yuga, and with the beginning of Kali Yuga, Tapas, Shaucham, Daya, all these three have got destroyed. Only truthfulness is there, but even that is tottering, as Srimad Bhagavatam mentioned. That means bull is hardly able to stand on one leg. Even that fourth pillar of Satyam is tottering. It is falling off. And what are the countermeasures to these religious principles of tapas, shaucham, daya, satyam? What destroys tapas, austerity? Sadatushta Achyuta Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Pride destroys austerity, Prabhuji.
Yes, and what is that word? Smaya.
Smaya.
Smaya is what destroys tapas. So see, Sanskrit is not mandatory for writing the answers, but those of you who have the ability to memorize, who have grown up in a culture where we are used to recite the verses, it helps a lot if we can remember the Sanskrit word as well. It will be easier to remember the sequence, everything. So smaya, pride, it destroys the austerities. Then what destroys the shaucha? What is it mentioned? Yes, Prabhuji. So don't worry, even if you don't remember the Sanskrit word.
Illicit connections.
Lust of women, Prabhuji.
Yeah, so illicit relationship, unregulated illicit relation connections with the opposite gender. Sangha destroys the shaucha. So smaya, sangha, then what next? Tapa, shaucham, daya. What destroys the mercy? Daya, according to the Adidev Gopesh Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, no meat eating.
Yes, mother is what is mentioned. So what answer you gave is based on the general understanding. What answer we are expecting here is based on this specific chapter. So as per this specific chapter, whatever the sequences of the adharmic principles, irreligious principles that destroy the religious pillars are mentioned. Madaha, which is, if I'm not wrong, it is intoxication. And correct me if you see a different word, intoxication. It destroys the mercy, it destroys the daya, and finally what destroys the satya? What does this chapter mention about satyam? Which irreligious principle destroys satya?
Lying propaganda, Prabhu. Falsity.
Yes, falsity or false propaganda or lying propaganda is what destroys the truthfulness. So these four pillars of religion, and what destroys these four pillars based on what chapter 17 describes is very important. This is the crux, one of the important points. So let us proceed. Oops. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Let me make few more devotees co-host, and I request your help to please mute anyone causing background sound. Hare Krishna. Ajit Tiwari Prabhu, I have made you also co-host. And Dhanya Dhameshwari Mataji.
Okay, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
So let us start with today's verses. Hare Krishna. So we'll start. Yeah. So this was the verse which we had paused at last time, which is Maharaj Parikshit, who could fight 1,000 enemies single-handedly, thus pacified the personality of religion and the earth. Then he took up his sharp sword to kill the personality of Kali, who is the cause of irreligion. So as part of our discussion today, two very important points we will try to understand, discuss upon. One is how Maharaj Parikshit, his greatness is being emphatically presented in this part of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the sense how he immediately became ready to punish the personality of Kali upon seeing the Dharma, the bull, and Mother Earth in the form of cow being persecuted, and how he pacified them, how he was not impulsive in his action, but he ascertained the cause. He understood from the bull that how the perpetrator does not necessarily is what meets the eye. And finally, he was ready to perform his duty as the able administrator by still going ahead and punishing Kali Purusha. And second important point is how Maharaj Parikshit, when Kali Purusha surrenders to Maharaj Parikshit, as it will be clear in the subsequent verses, how he gave him shelter, but at the same time made elaborate arrangements in a way that the influence of Kali is not spread unrestrictedly, in an unchecked manner. So he took care of his subjects in such a way, not granting a free flow of spreading the influence of Kali Purusha. And thirdly, as householders, as majority of us are all householders, grahasthas, what lessons can we draw as an householder to keep the Kali out of our household? So Parikshit Maharaj was dealing with the Kali at the beginning of Kali Yuga, and we are dealing with the Kali just 5,000 years into Kali Yuga, but the influence of Kali has spread like anything within this small period of 5,000 years. So how as householders we can protect our family, our near and dear ones, and take some practical means, steps to protect our family members from Kali Purusha. So we will try and see all these aspects. So this one we saw, we'll start with text 29. And I request devotees who would like to recite, keep your hands raised. Some of these purports we will quickly scan through because ideally we want to conclude the chapter today. And some of the purports we will go bit more into detail. So my request to all the devotees, even if we are not able to cover few purports in detail as part of the discussion, do go through these. And if there are any questions, queries, we can cover them subsequently. Lalita Vinodini Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 17.29. Tam jigansum abhipretya. Dhaya nripalanchanam. Tatpadamulam shirasa. Samagadbhaya Vibvala.
Translation.
Translation and purport by Divine Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When the personality of Kali understood that the king was willing to kill him, he at once abandoned the dress of a king and under pressure of fear completely surrendered to him, bowing his head. Purport. The royal dress of the personality of Kali is artificial. The royal dress is suitable for a king or a kshatriya, but when a lower class man artificially dresses himself as a king, his real identity is disclosed by the challenge of a bona fide kshatriya like Maharaja Parikshit. A real kshatriya never surrenders. He accepts the challenge of his rival Kshatriya and he fights either to die or to win. Surrender is unknown to a real Kshatriya. In the age of Kali, there are so many pretenders dressed and posed like administrators or executive heads, but their real identity is disclosed when they are challenged by a real Kshatriya. Therefore, when the artificially dressed personality of Kali saw that to fight Maharaja Parikshit was beyond his ability, he bowed down his head like a subordinate and gave up his royal dress. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you. So here we see Kali Purusha, who was dressed in a royal Kshatriya attire. He immediately understood that he stands no chance in front of the might and power of Maharaj Parikshit, and that he was about to be killed by the king. So Lalita Vinodini Mataji, continue to read the translation, just the translation.
Yes, Prabhuji. Translation by Jivendra Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Maharaja Parikshit, who was qualified to accept surrender and worthy of being sung in history, did not kill the poor surrendered and fallen Kali, but smiled compassionately, for he was kind to the poor.
Thank you, Mataji. So we see that Maharaj Parikshit, as well as so many great kings in the history, although their arch enemies or even demons, great demons, when they would come to take shelter of such great Kshatriya kings, it was a principle that was followed by the Kshatriyas that a person who has come to beg shelter should never be killed. And we see so many examples. The famous example we see that of Maya Danava, who came to take shelter of Arjun when both the fire which was started in the forest as well as the Sudarshan Yagya, the chakra of Lord Krishna, both were chasing Maya Danav demon. And it is explained that not only Arjun gave him shelter, but seeing Arjun gave shelter to Maya Danav demon, Krishna also became very pleased because Maya Danav had taken shelter of such a great devotee like Arjun. And thus Maya Danav's life was spared, otherwise he was definitely destined to be killed. And then as a uh, as a penance or offering of gratitude from Maya Danav demon, while Arjun was reluctant to take any accept any gift, Lord Krishna instructed Maya Danav to construct the beautiful palace for the Pandavas in Hastinapur, and it was the same palace and the assembly, seeing which all the kings, including the Kauravas, they became greatly impressed. Of course, for Duryodhana, that particular palace, it increased his envy towards the Pandavas. And within the same palace and assembly, the Rajasuya Yagya was conducted by Maharaj Yudhishthir and all the Pandavas for honoring Lord Krishna. So coming back to this particular point, here also we see that this particular, not exactly the demon, but Kali Purusha, he has surrendered to Maharaj Parikshit, and thus it becomes duty of Maharaj Parikshit to give shelter and not to spare the life of Kali Purusha. And many might contest that if Maharaj Parikshit were to kill Kali Purusha, then all those difficulties faced by the people in Kali Yuga, they would not have arisen. But few important points to understand. First and foremost, it is not what meets the eye, but what is right that is done by the great devotees. So similarly, Maharaj Parikshit, as a Kshatriya, he followed the Kshatriya principle. Second thing, the arrival of Kali Purusha, it is not happening arbitrarily. We see that it is Krishna's wish for the four ages to come in a particular manner and the symptoms of the four ages to accordingly be manifest. And because of the intensity of the onslaught of Kali Purusha, that is also one of the reasons why we are having Srimad Bhagavatam in our hands, why we are having the shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam. So considering two scenarios where Kali Purusha, the onslaught had not happened, and even Srimad Bhagavatam had also not appeared, Krishna had not appeared as Srimad Bhagavatam, versus the degradation because of Kali Yuga, and at the same time, hope available to the fallen people of this age in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam, an intelligent person would always select second scenario. So we have to understand these happenings from the Shastric point of view, not from the speculative point of view. And we see Maharaj Parikshit here smiling, seeing the surrendered Kali Purusha, because the same Kali Purusha, he had dressed himself in a very, very royal attire, Kshatriya attire, and now he had come to his own self, giving up that dress of a Kshatriya. And he was thinking, he means Parikshit Maharaj, he was thinking how ironic it was that although no one was saved from his sharp sword when he desired to kill, the poor lower class Kali was spared by his timely surrender. Maharaj Parikshit's glory and kindness are therefore sung in history. He was a kind and compassionate emperor, fully worthy of accepting the surrender even from his enemy. Thus, the personality of Kali was saved by the will of Providence. So, I have, in the subsequent course of purports, I have marked one story to be discussed with all of you, but maybe I can mention that straight away. So, we see that in the case of Lord Ramachandra, when Vibhishan came to surrender to Lord Ramachandra, and because Vibhishan came from the family of the demons, Asuras, he was coming flying along with, I think, 2 or 3 of his associates. And when Lord Ramachandra, Lakshman, and the monkey army led by Sugriva, Hanumanji, Angad, and all, they saw Vibhishan and the associates coming flying towards Lord Ramachandra. They were immediately ready with their weapons, uh, considering him as a hostile party. And Lord Ramachandra, just in order to test his associates, he asked from several leaders of his army in terms of what should be done with Vibhishan. And all the military leaders, including Sugriva and all, they wanted Vibhishan and the associates to be not trusted and immediately punished or killed, considering them to be the spies coming from Ravana, just disguised as friends. But Hanumanji's opinion differed, and Hanumanji mentioned that he sees the sincerity in the eyes of Vibhishan and he should be given a chance to uh, put his plea in front of Lord Ramachandra to mention his prayers. And Lord Ramachandra agreed with Hanumanji. Not only did he agree with Hanumanji, but he mentioned that what to speak of Vibhishan, even if Ravana himself comes at this particular point in time to surrender, although he had committed such grave offense of kidnapping Mother Sita, Lord Ramachandra would still offer him complete protection. And what not only complete protection, Lord Ramachandra was so magnanimous. He mentioned to the monkey army that he would make Ravana the king of Ayodhya. And then the devotees asked, "Oh, you would make Ravana the king of Ayodhya if he surrenders? Then what happens to Bharat?" And Lord Ramachandra said he would make Bharat the king of Vaikuntha. And the devotees were even more astonished. They said, "What would happen to you if Bharat becomes the king of Vaikuntha?" Lord Ramachandra mentioned that I would give up Vaikuntha and I will keep going around, roaming around, just giving protection to my devotees. So the point is, Lord himself is so magnanimous that in front of granting his mercy to a surrendered soul, Lord is so magnanimous that he is not even bothered about even giving up his own kingdom or giving up his own throne in order to give complete shelter and protection to such a surrendered personality. And there is one very nice purport which will come as part of our discussion today, where Bhagavata mentions that if the Lord can be so merciful even to the demoniac personalities if they surrender unto him, then how much more merciful he would be to the devotees. So, as devotees, we should consider it as our great fortune if we are able to surrender ourselves, if we are able to surrender our lives to Lord Krishna, because Krishna values such a soul who is sincerely surrendering his free will and showing endeavor, showing even intent, what to speak of endeavor, showing even intent to surrender, Lord is greatly acknowledged in acknowledgement and in gratitude of such a devotee. So very important. And we see Maharaj Parikshit is not holding any grudge or not keeping any anger towards Kali Purusha when he surrenders. And it is mentioned it is timely surrender. That means that was the last chance of Kali Purusha of having his life spared from Maharaj Parikshit. So Bhagavatam glorifies Parikshit Maharaj for this magnanimity of his heart. So we proceed. Divya Rukmini Mataji, you have any question? Hare Krishna. Or you want to recite?
Recite, Prabhu.
Recite? All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I will request you, Mataji, subsequent verses. I will first ask Prema Priya Mataji. Prema Priya, Jayashri Mataji, Hare Krishna. You continue.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
I'll recite, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Rajovacha. Nate gudakesh yashodharanam.
Nate
Gudakeshayashodharanam.
Baddhanjale vaibhayam asti kinchit.
Bhayam asti kinchit.
Navarti vayam navartitavyam bhavata kathanchana. Kshetre madiye tvamadharma bandhuhu.
So
Sorry,
here,
Prabhuji.
no problem. Here, Kali Purusha is being referred to as Adharma Bandhu. And we see this type of terminology used in so many places. Like, say, for example, whoever is a person fallen from his designated platform, he is referred to as related to a particular personality. Like in case of Ashwatthama, we saw the use of the word Brahma Bandhu. That means he is a friend or relative of a Brahmana. Similarly, Kali Purusha was so fallen that he is being referred to as Adharma Bandhu, which Srila Prabhupada translates as the friend of irreligion personified. So he was so fallen in his position. Mataji, just read the translation and the highlighted part.
Yes, Prabhuji. A translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada ki jai. The king thus said, "You have inherited the fame of Arjuna. Therefore, since you have surrendered yourself with folded hands, you need not fear for your life. But you cannot remain in my kingdom, for you are the friend of irreligion." Purport: the personality of Kali, who is a friend of all kinds of irreligiosities, may be excused if he surrenders, but in all circumstances, he cannot be allowed to live as a citizen in any part of a welfare state.
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So we see here, although Parikshit Maharaj is being magnanimous in sparing life of Kali Purusha, he at the same time is very attentive to the well-being of all his subjects, well-being of all the citizens. And thus, he is denying a residence. He is denying giving any residence to Kali Purusha in his kingdom, for that would cause great harm, that would cause degradation to the citizens of the state. So he is fulfilling both the responsibilities, monitor the minute aspects of the personality of Maharaj Parikshit in terms of he approaching the particular situation, and then Maharaj Parikshit being very sensitive to the harm being meted out to the dharma and the cow, dharma and the mother earth, and how he approaches dharma, how he hears very patiently and very attentively what dharma has to say, and then what action he is ready to take based on his position as the king, how he is granting the shelter, and after granting the shelter, how Maharaj Parikshit is being very careful to protect the citizens of his state. So please note down all these aspects of the personality of Maharaj Parikshit. In fact, Bhagavatam mentions that this whole episode of Kali Purusha hurting the cow and the bull is being shown here just to glorify Maharaj Parikshit. Because the section of Bhagavatam we are currently into, it deals with the birth and activities of Maharaj Parikshit leading to the appearance of Srimad Bhagavatam. the descent of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are just before appearance of Srimad Bhagavatam. And unless we note down all the magnificent characteristics of Maharaj Parikshit, we won't understand his glories. So this is the next one, that Maharaj Parikshit, while he spared Kali Purusha's life, he has not granted him any residence yet. Yes, Mataji, continue with
Yes,
highlighted part.
Therefore, a responsible king like Maharaja Parikshit could not allow the friend of religiosity to flourish in his kingdom at the cost of the good fame of the Pandavas. That is the way of wiping out corruption in the state and not otherwise. The friends of religiosity should be banished from the state, and that will save the state from corruption. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. This last statement, how the irreligiosity should be banished, that means it should not be allowed any entry or settlement in the kingdom, in our home state, or within our home as well. This is more elaborately explained in the subsequent purports. What does it mean to banish irreligiosity within the home or the state? One second. Please continue with the translation. Prema Priya Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Mother, yes, Prabhuji. Translation. If the personality of Kali, a religion, is allowed to act as a man-god or an executive head, certainly irreligious principles like greed, falsehood, robbery, incivility, treachery, misfortune, cheating, quarrel, and vanity will abound.
Highlighted part.
Here, a secular state may be impartial to any particular type of faith, but the state cannot be indifferent to the principles of religion, as above mentioned. But in the age of Kali, the executive heads of state will be indifferent to such religious principles, and therefore, under their patronage, the opponents of religious principles, such as greed, falsehood, cheating, and pilfery, will naturally follow. And so there will be no meaning to propaganda crying to stop corruption in the state. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji. So last time we had Anand Vilas Prabhu ask this question, that while some of these professions, older time professions, propagating irreligiosity, they were existing in the earlier ages as well. How does it differ from the current age? And in answer to this question, we had mentioned how the patronage and the state sponsorship and support for these irreligious activities was not there in the earlier ages, and which we see in the current age. And the same is mentioned here, that state patronage of the principles which oppose the religious principles, like the irreligious activities like greed, falsehood, cheating, and pilfery. Pilfery, like we know the pilferation, that means adulteration, or this is called stealing. So all these activities, they harm the religious practices and the pillars. So they are in a way patronized by the state side. I'll give you a simple example. Again, we don't want to criticize any state, but this is just for our own understanding how the state support exists for these irreligious practices. Back in 2009, 10, 11, for work purpose, when I was based out of Amsterdam, I was shocked to see, and it is known openly, that the state government there, it has the government sanctioned places where the contraband drugs are served, or they have they call it sex tourism or whatever, where the red light areas and all, they have been designed in a very, very prominent manner, and this has been there since centuries altogether. So these instances itself shows what does it mean by state patronage of these irreligious activities. If the government is granting license to such places, then people are all the more encouraged to engage. And not only are people at that place encouraged, but people all over the world travel to these places to indulge in irreligious practices. So this is called as state government support and patronage to the irreligious activities. And Bhagavatam mentions that on one hand, governments all over the world, they want to stop the ills of Kali Yuga in the form of corruption, etc. But while the irreligious practices are being patronized from the government side, we cannot expect the corruption and so-called other evils of Kali Yuga to cease to exist. So yes, this verse we will go through. Divya Rukmini Mataji, you can recite text 33. We are quickly skimming through these verses because we want to give more time to the purports later on where few very important points are being discussed. Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Navartidhavyam tadharmabandho
Navartitavyam tadharma bandho
dharmena satyena cha vartitavye
dharmena satyena cha vartitavye
brahmavarte yatra yajanti yakner
Brahma varti yatra yajanti yajne
yakneshwaram yaknyavidana vigna
Yajneshwaram yajnavidana vigyam. So here Parikshit Maharaj is describing his kingdom as Brahmavarta. Brahmavarta, Srila Prabhupada translates wherever constantly the sacrifices are being performed for the pleasure of Lord Krishna. Brahmavarta, that place where sacrifice is being conducted, Yatta yajanti yajner yageshwaram yajna vitana vidnya, where the sacrifices are constantly being performed for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord Krishna, because in my place, in my kingdom, everywhere, constantly the sacrifices are in progress for the pleasure of Lord Krishna, you cannot be granted a residence in this Brahmavarta. So let's see the translation. Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Translation. Therefore, O friend of irreligion, you do not deserve to remain in a place where experts perform sacrifices according to truth and religious principles for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Thank you. Thank you. So the purport you can go through. Basically, Srila Prabhupada mentions in the Bhagavatam purport that how main sacrifice which is practical in this age is yagya. And while the different countries may have different types of sacrifices, like sacrifices don't consider just in the form of yagya, sacrifices in the form of different rituals that are even meant to please different devatas, for example, like different tribes and all, they have their own rituals to satisfy their own specific devatas. But Srila Prabhupada mentions in the subsequent purport that even this type of sacrifices and worship, Krishna mentions in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita as a vidhi purvakam. That means it is a worship of the same Supreme Lord, which is performed with not so correct understanding of the Supreme Lord, but ultimately these sacrifices are meant for Krishna. So Parikshit Maharaj is specifically mentioning King Kali, although he has spared his life, he cannot grant him any residence in his kingdom because that kingdom is filled with sacrifices. Continue with the translation, Mataji. Divya Rukmini Mataji.
Translation. In all sacrificial ceremonies, although sometimes a demigod is worshipped, the Supreme Lord Personality of Godhead is worshipped because He is the super soul of everyone and exists both inside and outside like the air. Thus, it is the only who awards all welfare to the worshipper.
Thank you. So here in this particular purport, Srila Prabhupada is quoting that famous verse from the 9th chapter. Yepi anya devata bhakta yajante shraddhayan vitaha tepi mam eva kaunteya. Eva means certainly those people are also worshipping Krishna. Yajanti vidhi purvakam. They are just worshipping Krishna in a vidhi purvakam manner. That means without proper understanding of Krishna being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's why without that understanding, they worship various devatas. We proceed. This is the reason given by Maharaj Parikshit to Kalipurusha for not granting him residence. Then what does Kalipurusha say? Continue. Divya Rukmini Mataji, Shri Suti Goswami said,
Sri Suta Goswami said, the personality of Kali, thus being ordered by Maharaja Parikshit, began to tremble in fear. Seeing the king before him like Yamaraja, ready to kill him, Kali spoke to the king as follows. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, Your Majesty.
Your Majesty, though I may live anywhere and everywhere under your order, I shall but see you with bow and arrows wherever I look.
Yes. So Kali Purusha is basically saying that you have spared my life and you have granted me my life. But what do I do with it? Because any place I go in your kingdom, there is no suitable place where I can live because your kingdom is so religious and you have such a strong administration over your kingdom that Kali is a mischief monger. Wherever he goes, he wants to create disturbances, he wants to create conflicts within people, he wants to create degradation for the people of Kali Yuga. So he was afraid that he won't be able to live. That means he won't be able to commit these mischiefs anywhere in Maharaj Parikshit's kingdom because he was such a strong administrator. So this verse we will recite. Any devotee is wanting to read. Usha Kamat Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
37. Hare Krishna.
verse 37. Tanme dharma bhritam sreshta.
Tanme dharma bhratam
Bhritam
sreshta.
Sreshta.
Tanam nirdeshtum arhasi.
Sthanam nirdeshtum arhasi.
Yatraiva niyato vatsya.
Yatraiva niyato vatsya.
Athishtam sten anushasanam.
Atishtam te anushasanam.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada ki jai. Therefore, O chief amongst the protectors of religion, please fix some place for me where I can live permanently under the protection of your government. Purport. The personality of Kali addressed Maharaj Parikshit as the chief amongst the protectors of religiosity because the king refrained from killing a person who surrendered unto him. A surrendered soul should be given all protection, even though he may be an enemy. That is the principle of religion. And we can just imagine what sort of protection is given by the personality of Godhead to the person who surrenders unto him, not as an enemy, but as a devoted servitor. The Lord protects the surrendered soul from all sins and all resultant reactions of sinful acts. Bhagavad Gita 18.66.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So here we see that the protection offered by Lord and his representatives, Rajashis like Maharaj Parikshit, to the surrendered souls who may be an enemy, who may be demons, is glorified. That, as we just discussed a while ago, even a person coming from a demoniac family like Vibhishan, Lord Ramachandra granted him full protection. Not only full protection, he made him the king of Lanka, and he was even willing to grant protection to his elder brother, provided he surrenders. So Bhagavatam is glorifying the position of devotees, that if the demons are given such a high respect and dignity awarded to them by the Supreme Lord, how much greater of a destination would Lord grant to his devoted servitors? How much reward would Lord award to the surrendered devotees? And yesterday in the Bhagavad Gita class in the temple, Prabhuji was mentioning very nicely, Rangamaya Prabhu, that Krishna's protection to the devotee, it doesn't mean that Krishna will reward us only when we attain the state of pure devotional service. Prabhuji was mentioning with so much conviction that as soon as a person even expresses his or her intent to surrender to Lord Krishna, Krishna immediately starts granting him protection protection, Krishna immediately starts granting him the intelligence on how to advance further in one's Krishna consciousness. And to explain this particular point, Prabhuji mentioned a very nice pastime, very nice incident in the life of a devotee. And this particular incident I had previously read as well, and maybe I will share the link afterwards. It so happened that one particular devotee who was serving in the DT department of ISKCON London, ISKCON So Street London, he had some misunderstanding with few other devotees, and in being hurt or impulsively, he decided to quit the ashram and quit the devotee association. And probably this devotee might have been from Eastern European countries or from Russia, not sure. But subsequently, few months down the line, another devotee couple, okay, who were nicely engaged in devotional service, husband and wife, they had planned to visit some different place, from one particular temple in Russia to a different place. So they were taking an airline. So in the flight, the husband and wife, the earlier the seats granted to them was one spouse in one particular row and wife in some different row, but somehow later on the air hostesses brought them to sit in the same row next to each other, and the seat next to them was occupied by a gentleman. And when the flight took off and when it was time to serve refreshment, the devotees from the temple from where this devotee couple started their journey, they had packed lot of prasadam for these devotees, and which was much more than what they needed. So these devotees, being very kind, the wife offered some prasadam to the person next in the next seat, that, my dear sir, would you like to take some food? And he said, he gave a stern no. And then later he said he's a vegetarian, and the lady said that yes, this is definitely a vegetarian food. Not only vegetarian food, it is very special food because it is offered to Lord Krishna. And when the lady persisted, requesting this gentleman to accept prasadam, this gentleman, all of a sudden, he broke into tears. And the husband and wife, they were shocked. Oh, what happened? Did we hurt him in some way? Why did he start crying? And the person explained to this devotee couple that he is actually an ex-devotee. And he mentioned to them that the moment they entered the plane, he knew that they would land somehow or other in the two vacant seats next to him. And why he felt so? He told the devotees that since the time he has left the devotee community, the temple ashram in the ISKCON So Street Temple, that Krishna has arranged one situation after another where invariably he encounters devotees in his walks of life. Either he sees devotees chanting street Sankirtan, or sees devotees distributing books, and now Krishna has arranged for devotees to come and sit just next to him and give him prasadam. Although he is trying to avoid Krishna, he is trying to avoid devotees, but Krishna has not forgotten him. Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna is acting in such a way that although devotee wants to forget him, Krishna is not forgetting the devotee and constantly wanting to grant his mercy in one way or another, even when the devotee is reluctant to take. And finally, that ex-devotee, he relented, he accepted prasadam, and he felt great love within his heart, that how he had so many wrong feelings and anger towards devotees, but Krishna never ever reciprocated in equal. In fact, what Krishna reciprocated with him was with all the love and care, and sending devotees one after another to remind him of his olden days with the devotees. And finally, he returned to the devotee association. So the point that although the perfection may come at a later stage after the purification is done for a sadhaka bhakta, but Lord's protection and Lord's granting of the intelligence, that will start immediately as soon as a devotee takes to Krishna consciousness. Krishna doesn't wait for a devotee to reach a particular threshold level before he starts giving his protection. The protection starts immediately as soon as we express our intent to surrender to Lord Krishna. Anyone has any question or any thoughts to share, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, on this particular aspect of the glorious protection offered by Lord Krishna to his devotees when he offers that protection to the demons? What to speak of devotees who surrender unto him? Anyone has any thoughts or any questions, queries? Hare Krishna. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
The small incident, Prabhuji, not a very great thing.
Mm.
During COVID, since we could not go out and all, so I had just made up my mind. I was always regular into my shloka. That is our culture at home. So like Vishnu Sahasranam and other things. So I said, like Bhagavad Gita, I'm not very, like I was not fluent enough. So let me take up. So I was like, every three days I used to finish one full, like, I used to separate in 3 parts. And every third day I used to finish one round of Bhagavad Gita shlokas. So that way, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I used to read once, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But then Sunday, I used to give off. I would read other shlokas and all. But always I had a feeling like I'm just reading without knowing the meaning. Though the meanings are there, but nobody's there to explain me. But that yearning for to know the meaning, I was always there. And exactly during the same time, I got this SMS. I mean, I got a WhatsApp message saying that there is an 18 days course where you can learn Bhagavad Gita. So I felt like, God is answering my prayer. It was not a prayer or anything. I just had a feeling like, I didn't know the meaning of it. I'm just reading like, rote learning. So I should know the meaning. I just felt that way. And this happened, Prabhuji, like ISKCON had, of course, I wasn't in ISKCON Mangalore. I was in ISKCON Bangalore, where in Tamil it was taught. And then after 6 months, I came to ISKCON Mangalore. And then slowly, like, thanks to Devika Mataji, who said, like, you can take up teaching also. So that way I entered Prabhuji. So it's like internal, you feel for something and it happens for sure. Like, that's what I felt.
Thank you, Lalita Vinodini Mataji, for sharing this wonderful incident. So we see that Krishna is always eager to reciprocate with the sincerity of any soul, for that matter, who has shown even a slightest of the intent of surrendering to him. So Bhagavatam glorifies this magnanimous quality of representative of Lord Krishna, Maharaj Parikshit. So we proceed. Sorry, who was the devotee? Usha Kamath Mataji. You continue to read.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Translation.
Suta Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, thus being petitioned by the personality of Kali, gave him permission to reside in places where gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter were performed.
Yes, thank you.
Yes,
so, maybe you can read this yellow part.
Yes, Srila Jiva Goswami directs that drinking against the principles of scriptures, such as the Sautramani Yajna, association with women outside marriage, and killing animals against the injunctions of scriptures, are irreligious. In the Vedas, 2 different types of injunctions are there for the pravrittas, or those who are engaged in material enjoyment, and for the nivrittas, or those who are liberated from material bondage.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So here we see the protective feeling of Maharaj Parikshit towards all his state subjects. Firstly, he was ready to punish Kali Purusha. Finally, he spared his life because Kali Purusha surrendered. And then he didn't grant him residence. But when Kali Purusha pleaded with Maharaj Parikshit that what is the use of you granting me my life when you are not giving me a suitable place to stay? Finally, Maharaj Parikshit is agreeing to allow Kali Purusha to reside in places where the 4 regulative principles are breached. And as we will see in the subsequent verses, that practically there was no place within the kingdom of Maharaj Parikshit where the regulative principles were breached. So then subsequently Kali Purusha asked for further place. But to explain this particular point, that why these 4 places are granted. Srila Prabhupada quotes various acharyas, specifically Jiva Goswami. So Prabhupada mentions that there are 2 types of paths and the followers of that path. So one path is called as Pravrutti Marga, which means the path of material enjoyment. And second type of path is called as the Nivrutti Marga, which means the path of self realization, or the path of renunciation from the sense gratification and pursuing self realization. So the Pravrutti Marga, which is the path of enjoyment, even that path, it is not an unregulated or unlimited, indiscriminate type of enjoyment. It is a path meant for those who cannot give up sense gratification. So at least allow the sense gratification in a regulated manner, not in an unregulated manner. But Bhagavatam mentions very clearly that this regulated manner of sense gratification doesn't mean that Sanatan Dharma is sanctioning or propagating a religion. Not at all. Maybe we will read this particular portion. 1 second. You can read the highlighted part, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. One man's food may be poison for others. Similarly, what is recommended for those in the mode of ignorance may be poison for those in the mode of goodness.
Yes,
Srila
yes. So we'll
Yes.
take a pause here. So this statement is very important. So what may be recommended for those at a lower stature of their Krishna consciousness, no lower stature in terms of advancement of Krishna consciousness, versus those who are already advanced on the path of self-realization. So what has been granted under regulative circumstances for people in the Nivrutti Marga who are not able to give sense gratification at all, that is not the recommendation for an advanced person for sure. So why it is so? Let us see. Continue, Mataji.
Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhu therefore affirms that recommendations in the scriptures for a certain class of men are never to be considered adharma or irreligious. But such activities are factually adharma and they are never to be encouraged. The recommendations in the scriptures are not meant for the encouragement of such adharma, but for regulating the necessary adharma gradually towards the path of dharma.
Yes, so let me give some example in the devotee context, and these are very sensitive topics, so please don't mention it as it is in any congregation, because we don't want to harm anyone's faith. Okay, but this is just to understand this principle, that how regulated sense gratification is also an adharma in an absolute sense. Say for example, Bhagavatam mentions that the association with the opposite gender, it is regulated by the process of marriage ceremony, by the institution of marriage. So does it mean that in a marriage, the husband and wife, they can enjoy life like anything they want? Not at all. That is definitely adharmic. But there are certain regulative practices that are given in the scriptures, specifically for our ISKCON institution. Srila Prabhupada has given recommendations for the grahasthas. Say for example, even ideally speaking, husband and wife should come together for the propagation of Krishna conscious children. That means for bringing into this world Krishna conscious progeny. Otherwise they shouldn't. But devotees might say, oh, that is a very high standard. If you can't meet that, at least have a regulated grahastha life. That means the association is allowed only at a regulated period, like Srila Prabhupada specifically mentioned for grahasthas, once 30 days. But so somebody might say that if that association is done, will I still get bound in the material world? Definitely. As soon as there is an association that is not for the propagation of the Krishna conscious children, the bondage is definitely there to come. So it is two-way sword. That means the regulated sense gratification doesn't mean that we will be free out of bondage, but what it would mean, at least it would protect us from the breach of religious principles. From the gross breach of religious principle, these regulative practices will protect us from. But if we really want to climb the ladder and advance in our pursuit of self-realization, then such a person should learn what is higher stature of following the principles, even being in the family life. I'll give you one positive example. When one devotee heard from Srila Prabhupada that husband and wife should come together only for the propagation of Krishna conscious children, only for bringing into this world Krishna conscious children, not otherwise. That is the ideal platform of Grahastha life. Then this devotee asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, is it really worth the difficulties and the pain worth taking to manage the household for 20, 30, 40 years before one takes vanaprastha ashram? Is it really worth entering the family life at all? If you are saying that ideally husband and wife should come together only for this. And then what was Srila Prabhupada's response to this devotee? Prabhupada said, you have understood the essence. You are really intelligent. So what does it mean? That means that if a person really has that level of caliber, that level of renunciation, where he can manage himself on the path of self-realization and not feel a need of having emotional support of the opposite gender of spouse, then he is very well welcome to accept the order of brahmacharya ashram, and follow that path, attain perfection in his life. But if person, everybody has his needs, in terms of the subtle body, in terms of one's ego or emotional needs, then in such cases the shastras are granting a concession within the regulative principles of married life. And even those regulations doesn't mean that we will not inherit any bondage. So is this particular point clear to all Prabhujis, Matajis? How these recommendations, that means these concessions in sense gratification that are given in the scriptures, even those conceptions are mentioned here as adharma. Okay? Is anyone still confused with this particular statement in the purport? Hare Krishna, are all the devotees still with me, or any confusions here?
All clear, Prabhuji.
Okay, but again, my sincere request to everyone, this discussion we are doing because it is part of the purport, and this is not to be mentioned as it is in a overly enthusiastic manner to a newcomer. People will absolutely get confused, and we would be doing more harm to their faith than bringing them closer to Krishna. But as one starts pursuing self-realization, we should at least know what is the higher statures in pursuit of Krishna consciousness. Okay, so scriptures definitely don't want us to remain in grade 1 itself. They want us to progress from grade 1 to 2, 2 to 3, finally at completing till our graduation, post-graduation. So at least we should know what is the PhD class. Okay, even if we may not be at that level straight away. Usha Mataji, please continue
Following in the footsteps of Maharaj Parikshit, it is the duty of all executive heads of states to see that the principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, are established in the state, and that the principles of irreligion, namely pride, illicit female association or prostitution, intoxication, and falsity, are checked by all means. And to make the best use of a bad bargain, the personality of Kali may be transferred to places of gambling, drinking, prostitution, and slaughterhouses, if there are any places like that. Those who are addicted to these irreligious habits may be regulated by the injunctions of the scripture. In no circumstances should they be encouraged by any state.
Yes, thank you.
Hare.
So here it is mentioned, first we should not allow the irreligious practices in any part of the kingdom, or in our case, in our home. But specifically in the state, invariably there will be few people who won't be able to live without it. So for these type of people, there are concessions granted, but this concession doesn't mean that there is a state support. So there is a difference between granting concession to somebody who is not able to live without it versus the state itself encouraging the irreligious practice. So there is a difference between the two. So two very day-to-day practical points to eradicate corruptions Srila Prabhupada has given. So I will quickly go through in order to save time. First point, 2 compulsory fasting days in a month. And Srila Prabhupada mentions that not only will it help for the regulation and for the spiritual advancement of people in general, but it would also help the society by saving a major amount of food, which in turn can be utilized for those who are underprivileged, those who don't have proper food. Like there are many places in the world, including in few African nations, etc., where people are living in extreme poverty, not having even 2 times of proper food to sustain themselves. And scriptures mention that if all the population in well-to-do countries, if they just fast once a fortnight, it will in a major way mitigate the hunger problem of the world today. So this is the first practical suggestion, not suggestion, instructions that are given in Bhagavatam. Second one, there must be compulsory marriage of young boys and girls attaining 24 years of age and 16 years of age respectively. That means if a person has attained these ages, these are the suggested ages, although the age by law is 18 and 21 for the girl and for the boy. But scriptures are saying that if the boy and the girl are of marriageable age, they must be gotten married and not allowed to lead a free flow life of unregulated mixing. And specifically, Srila Prabhupada mentions that, of course, this is a contemplable point, but understand that the Divorce Act is encouraging prostitution and this should be abolished. So that means in the Vedic married life, there was nothing like divorce. But again, we can understand that in the Vedic married life, there was a proper training for the husband as well as for the wife. And the married life used to be led based on those principles. In the current life, in the current setup, society setup, there is neither the training, and so this particular fact cannot be established as it is without. But this is true that this act is driving many people into weakening the marriage institution. Like few days back, I had mentioned that statement that love at first sight and divorce at first fight. So people are becoming more and more intolerant, even in basic courtesies to the spouses. Then third one, this is very important. Srila Prabhupada is stating that all the well-to-do householders should give 50% of their income for the systematic propagation of the teachings of Vedic Dharma, of Srimad Bhagavatam. And what all is to be taught using that charity from the householders are basically the 5 aspects, 5 angas of devotional service that are given by Srila Rupa Goswami. So these 5 things Prabhupada has listed as: one is Karma Yoga, performing everything for the satisfaction of the Lord. Second is regular hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam. Third is chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Fourth is rendering all kinds of services to the Bhagavatas, to the devotees, and residing in a holy place. And these are the same 5 principles that are given by Srila Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Devotion, which are mentioned as 5 most potent form of devotional service. So you can refer to this later on. So these are the practical means given by Srila Prabhupada. And then finally, Srila Prabhupada mentions gambling of all description, even speculative business enterprise, is considered to be degrading. And when gambling is encouraged in the state, there is a complete disappearance of truthfulness. Now, to explain this point, I'll give you a current contemporary example from here. And again, all these examples, we don't want to criticize anybody, but understand the Shastric point of view. How, when state starts supporting these gambling enterprises, how the degradation, it spreads. Say, for example, in Singapore here, there is a state casino, okay, in a very famous 5-star hotel lobby, Marina Bay Sands, there is a casino. And in that casino, all of you would be surprised to know that foreigners are granted free entry. They don't have to pay anything. You just show your passport or identification and they will be granted entry. But for the local population to enter, government has kept a entry fee of $100, 100 or 150, I'm not sure, but it is significant amount, $100, for example, and it is significant money. Why? Because the government knows that this gambling habit is a very dangerous thing. It is a degradation, and once a person goes into that casino, it is very likely that he or she will visit it again and again and ultimately lose lot of money. That means householders are going to lose money. Who is going to gain? The owner of the casino, which means government in return in the form of the state taxes. They are always going to gain, irrespective of who wins and who lose. Who would gain? Government is going to gain. So what they are doing, when as far as the foreigners are concerned, they are being granted free entry. That means they are being encouraged in an indirect way that you come, you visit, no problem at all. But for the localites, there is a entry barrier that is kept. So point is, whether one agrees or not, in a way, government is encouraging this particular gambling industry as well as a business enterprise. So this is also one of the fact causing degradation. Any question, comment, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, on how these irreligious practices, they are encouraged directly or indirectly, and what are some of the practical means that are mentioned by Prabhupada, especially for the householders. And the earlier point we saw, where the concessions given, that doesn't mean there is encouragement from the scriptures. Concessions mainly are for those who can't stick to the highest expectation. For such persons, there is concession granted, but one should be able to rise above that as well, above those concessions. Any questions, comments, Prabhuji's, Mataji's? Are you all with me? Is it difficult to understand?
No, Prabhuji.
No, Prabhuji. No, Prabhuji.
Okay. But do you agree with whatever points we discussed so far in the purport?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, yes, Prabhuji.
Some of the contemporary examples also from the current times. So let us see. Now we saw the 3 steps. First, Maharaj Parikshit sparing life of Kali, then not granting him any residence, finally agreeing to grant a residence where these 4 principles of religious practice are breached. So then Kali is protesting even further that practically there is no such place, my dear king, in your kingdom where the 4 principles, regulative principles are broken. So grant me another place, otherwise I have no place to live. So Usha Mataji, please continue.
Yes, Prabhuji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada ki jai. The personality of Kali asked for something more, and because of his begging, the king gave him permission to live where there is gold, because wherever there is gold, there is also falsity, intoxication, lust, envy, and enmity.
Yes, and the highlighted part.
Therefore, Kali asked the king to give him something practical, which could be utilized for his nefarious purposes. Maharaj Parikshit thus gave him permission to live in a place where there is gold, because wherever there is gold, there are all the above mentioned 4 things. And over and above them, there is enmity too.
Thank you. So here, as we proceed with the next part of the purport of the same verse, we will see why it is important to have Shastra Chakshu through the eyes of a Acharya. Like from here, from the translation, we only see that the 5th place where Kali Purusha stays, other than the breach of regulative principles, is the place where gold is accumulated. Now let us see what Srila Prabhupada has to say. Why this gold is a dangerous thing as far as the influence of the Kali is concerned. Highlighted part, Mataji, the basic.
The basic principle is falsity because currency notes are issued in value beyond that of the actual reserve gold. This artificial inflation of currency by the authorities encourages prostitution of the state economy. The price of commodities becomes artificially inflated because of bad money or artificial currency notes. Bad money drives away good money. Instead of paper currency, actual gold coins should be used for exchange, and this will stop prostitution of gold.
Yes. So what is mentioned here, Srila Prabhupada is saying that this process of gold standardization, he has used this word somewhere, I don't recollect, you can check the, here, in the earlier part of the purport, Srila Prabhupada uses the word of gold standardization, how it has also caused the degradation in Kali Yuga. Then I checked in the Investopedia, what is gold standardization? Gold standardization means a country will decide the value of its currency based on the amount of gold, that gold stock that it possesses. So say, for example, here the example is, don't go too much into this, we'll just understand the concept. For example, if a country has, say, for example, set the price of the gold stock that it holds as $500 an ounce, that means that currency should be valued as 1 divided by 500 of an ounce of gold. What Srila Prabhupada is saying in the purport, that sometimes, say in the COVID, US itself, they printed currency notes in huge number. That means I have a 10 kg of gold, for example, as a theoretical example, as a state owner. But although I have a 10 kg of gold, because I need more money, I am printing just the currency notes, which are disproportionate to the amount of gold the state is holding. So as a result, it causes inflation. Inflation, that means money is too much, but the number of commodities the government, the state is holding is limited. That means people's buying power is very high. Naturally, the commodity prices will go higher up. So this also causes the inflation and the entry of Kali Yuga. So the point is, accumulation of gold is bad. Second is, if gold standardization is not properly followed, it also causes degradation, and which is already seen happening. And third problem with the gold is with Mataji's attachment in general to the gold ornaments. We have to be very careful about this. Continue, Mataji. Gold ornaments.
Gold ornaments for women may be allowed by control, not by quality, but by quantity. This will discourage lust, envy, and enmity. When there is actual gold currency in the form of coins, the influence of gold in producing falsity, prostitution, etc., will automatically cease. There will be no need of an anti-corruption ministry for another term of prostitution and falsity of purpose. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So what it means for us is that even when gold to a minimum degree for basic ornaments and all it is required, as a practicing devotees, we have to be very careful about not being overly attached to it and not stacking it up beyond the minimum necessities if we don't want Kali to stay in our home cupboards. And not only will it stay in the cupboard, it would start manifesting its influence all over the household if we are not careful. So let's try to complete the remaining 4-5 verses. Then we have a group exercise also. Any other devotees would like to read Prabhuji's, Mataji's? Hare Krishna. Anyone has any questions so far on all these points? Wherever Kali's influence is there, because these are the places where Parikshit Maharaj granted residence to Kali Purusha. Prema Prakash Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Translation. Thus, the personality of Kali, by the directions of Maharaja Parikshit, the son of Uttara, was allowed to live in those 5 places.
Yes. Which are those 5 places? All clear, everyone? Anyone has doubt? Which are the 5 places?
No
Prema
problem.
Prakash Prabhu? Okay, fine. So continue.
Therefore, whoever desires progressive well-being, special.
Prabhuji, you went on mute.
Yeah. Therefore, whoever desires progressive well-being, especially kings, religionists, public leaders, brahmanas, and sannyasis, should never come in contact with the 4 above-mentioned irreligious places.
Religious principles. Yes.
Principles. Sorry.
Thank
The
you.
progressive religionists and those who are responsible human beings, or those who do not want to spoil their valuable human life, should refrain from all the principles of irreligiosity, especially illicit connections with women.
Yes.
The four leaders of the human society, namely the sannyasis, the brahmanas, the king, and the public leader, must be tested crucially by their character and qualification before one can be accepted as the spiritual or material.
Prabhuji, you again went on mute.
Yeah. Material master of society. He must be tested by the above-mentioned criteria of character. Such public leaders may be less qualified in academic qualifications, but it's necessary primarily that they be free from the contamination of 4 disqualifications, namely gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter.
Thank you. So here it is mentioned that for the spiritual and material leaders of the society, namely the king, spiritual masters, public leaders, etc., these qualifications are of paramount importance, especially the spiritual qualifications. Even if they are materially not so qualified, their character should be exemplary. So I'll give one example to understand this particular point. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's spiritual master, Srila Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, he had spoken that when he passes away, his body should be dragged through the streets of Navadvip. And his exemplary student was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So when Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, he left his body, there were many so-called spiritual leaders in the Navadvip area. They all wanted to claim the body of Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj and build his samadhi in their ashram or near to their ashram, because ultimately what was the purpose? That wherever the samadhi of such a great saint as Srila Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj would be built, invariably it will draw many visitors to that place, and many visitors means lot of income for their institution, for their ashram, etc. So if I'm not wrong, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati was the only disciple of Srila Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, as a duty of a loyal disciple to his Guru Maharaj, he kept a condition that only that person may touch the body of my Guru Maharaj who has not had any illicit relationship any time in his life, and not a single person from that group of the spiritual leaders who wanted to claim the body of Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, they could come forward. When Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur kept that condition, and then he further minimized that, it was like something like, who has not had illicit connection at least in the last 6 months. Still nobody came, at least in last 1 month. So the point is, of course, we don't want to criticize them, but the point is why it is important for especially the spiritual leaders of the society to have such a exemplary character. And then finally, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur himself claimed the body of his spiritual master and the Samadhi of Srila Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. If I am not wrong, it is in the Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Math in Mayapur, which is the headquarter of the Gaudiya Math institution established by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So point is, it is very important for the spiritual masters, the spiritual leaders, and even material leaders to have exemplary character. Even if material qualification is less, that may be accepted, but spiritual qualification should be exemplary. So we proceed. So I'll just, go ahead.
Thereafter, the king re-established the lost legs of the personality of religion, the bull, and by encouraging activities, he sufficiently improved the condition of the earth.
Yes. So just one line I would read here. By granting very specific places to Kali Purusha to reside, Maharaj Parikshit, in a way, he protected his citizens. And Bhagavatam mentions Maharaj Parikshit practically cheated Kali. That means he gave him a residence, but he made sure that he doesn't get any of those places where either the 4 regulative principles are breached or where gold is stacked up. So he made sure that the citizens remain protected. Continue, Prabhuji, highlighted part.
Maharaj Parikshit, therefore, like his grandfather Arjuna, collected all illicit gold kept for the propensities of Kali and employed it in the Samkirtana Yagna as per the instruction of the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yes. So here, Bhagavatam mentions that gold as such is not bad, but when it is stacked up for the purpose of sense gratification, then it would definitely lead Kali Purusha to spread its influence. I'll give you a positive example for the use of gold. When the Panchatattva deities of Sri Mayapur Dham, all of you have seen the Panchatattva deities, Prabhuji's Matajis, of Mayapur Dham?
Yes, Prabhuji.
The Ashtadhatu deities, the huge life-size form deities, 7 feet high, of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, and all the Panchatattwas. So those deities were made in a place called Kumbakonam, which is in Tamil Nadu. And I was staying in Bangalore at that particular point in time when the deities were made, and it took a period of about, if I'm not wrong, 1.5 to 2 years for all the 5 deities to be made. So His Grace Jananivas Prabhu used to come to Bangalore and then visit Kumbakonam to oversee the molding of and the forming of these deities, and before they were taken to Mayapur one by one in a huge truck. So when it was announced in one of the Gaur Purnima festivals in Mayapur that these deities will be made, which was the desire of Prabhupada, earlier Acharyas, the life-size Panchatattva deities, and that we would need donations in the form of various metals. So either devotees can donate monetarily or devotees can donate gold if they want to. And when the gold collection was done, you would be amazed to know, Prabhujis and Matajis, that many of the Matajis, they voluntarily gave up the ornaments which they were wearing on their body, and lovingly, without anybody forcing or anything, and in order to contribute to the making of this Ashtadhatu deities of Panchatattva. So Bhagavatam mentions that this particular use of gold is right use, like Maharaj Parikshit did. He collected all the illicit, of course, those golden ornaments given by the devotees, that was out of their love, and that was not a illicit gold. But Maharaj Parikshit, he collected all the illicit gold which was kept for sense gratification or for the propensities of Kali, and he employed it in spreading Sankirtan Yagya. People of the world are generally in darkness regarding spiritual knowledge, especially in regard to devotional service of the Lord. And therefore, to propagate the systematic transcendental knowledge of devotional service is the greatest mercy that one can show in this world. So, as mentioned in the previous purports, that as a householder, the right means of deploying gold or wealth is propagate the systematic teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam, and specifically devotional institutions like ISKCON Mangalore and all, they are arranging the systematic propagation. And if we can help these institutions in whatever way we can, that is definitely the best use of our wealth or the gold we possess. So only 2 verses are remaining. Prema Prakash Prabhu. Yeah.
The most fortunate emperor Maharaj Parikshit, who was entrusted with the kingdom of Hastinapur by Maharaj Yudhishthir when he desired to retire to the forest, is now ruling the world with great success due to his being glorified by the deeds of the kings of the Kuru dynasty.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So if we see the present tense is used here, it is said that this great king Maharaj Parikshit is now ruling. So who is speaking this? Prema Prakash Prabhu? Who is speaking this? Suta Goswami. Suta Goswami to the sages of Naimisharanya. So because this incident has happened in very recent past, at that particular point in time, the present tense is being used. That means very recently it happened. So while narrating the story, Suta Goswami is saying that Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So here, that's why Suta Goswami has used the present tense to describe that it has happened very recently. That means Parikshit Maharaj thus punished Kali Purusha and is now ruling the kingdom in the most religious way. Prabhuji, you are still available? Yeah.
The principles of Maharaj Parikshit can be still continued and human society can still be improved if there is determination by the authorities. We can still purge out from this state all the activities of immorality introduced by the personality of Kali if we are determined to take action like Maharaj Parikshit. He allotted some place for Kali, but in fact, Kali could not find such places in the world at all because Maharaj Parikshit was strictly vigilant to see that there were no places for gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter. How can it be possible to adjust two contradictory matters? If we want to drive out corruption from the state, we must first of all organize society to accept the principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. And to make the condition favorable, we must close all the places of gambling, drinking, prostitution, and falsity. There are some of the practical These are some of the practical lessons from the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So with this, we will conclude our discussion on this particular chapter and proceed to the group discussion exercise. Maybe I will just read this translation. Maharaj Parikshit, the son of Abhimanyu, is so experienced. Again, here present tense is used by Suta Goswami. That means because the thing has happened in a very recent past. Maharaj Parikshit, the son of Abhimanyu, is so experienced that by dint of his expert administration and patronage, it has been possible for you to perform a sacrifice such as this. So, eh, Suta Goswami is addressing the sages of Naimisharanya that because his kingdom and his state leadership supported the religious principles in such a proper manner that, my dear sages of Naimisharanya, you are also being able to perform this 1,000-year-long sacrifice at the beginning of Kali Yuga. And Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport how it is very important for the state to support the performance of the administration of the religious principles. Only then the religious principles can be propagated properly. And Srila Prabhupada gives the example of Samrat Ashoka supporting Lord Buddha. Without that state support, the spread of Buddhist philosophy or the spread of teachings of Lord Buddha would have been very difficult. But because Lord Buddha had the state support, Buddhism was spread very widely, including in areas beyond India, like in Thailand, in China, in Myanmar, Bhutan, Cambodia, and so many places around India. We see that Buddhism is very well spread, mainly because of the state support. So, for any religious institution or philosophy to succeed, state support is very, very important. So, anyone has any questions, comments before we proceed to the group discussion? Hare Krishna. All right. Rohini Mataji, you share the new attendance link, Mataji, and next time share it directly in the end. Okay. So disregard the earlier one and you can share the new one, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, for today I have already shared.
Yeah, so actually I want the attendance link only to be shared in the end, Mataji. Okay, so maybe next time you...
Sure.
Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Mataji, if you could share it, I have
Reposted,
not
Prabhu.
filled
Hare
up.
Krishna. Yeah, I've reposted. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I've reposted.
Okay. Okay. Next time onwards, let's not share Radhika Mataji and Rohini Mataji. Okay. Share
Okay.
it only in the end. So let us go to the group exercise. Yes. So, and whoever wants to answer this question, please do refer to the specific verse and the purport, Prabhuji's Mataji's. Okay, we will give you few minutes to prepare. So this is a group exercise where come up with the practical means that as a householder we can learn and deploy in our own family setup to keep Kali out of reach from the household. And of course, we are not at the level of Parikshit Maharaj, but definitely as the leader of the household, either as the father, mother, uncle, grandfather, grandmother, it is our responsibility to try and protect our near and dear ones. And again, protecting our near and dear ones doesn't mean that we implement any extreme measures all of a sudden. We have to first ourselves be nice devotees, but what all steps we can take to make sure that Kali is kept out of the home. Okay, is the question clear, Prabhuji's, Mataji's? Hare Krishna. Anyone
Yes,
has
Prabhu.
any query? All right. So maybe take few minutes to scan through the verses that we just discussed. Take few minutes to go through the translation and maybe few points of the purport if you have highlighted or if you have noted down, and then come up with the practical means, what all we can deploy. That is our learnings from this session. And we would request all the devotees to participate. Everyone, I hope that everyone wants to save our family members from the onslaught of Kali Yuga. So everyone participate, please. We'll give few minutes and then we start. Whoever wants to answer can keep your hands raised. Rajiv, Mukh, Keshav, Prabhu, and Reena Mataji, Rohini Mataji, Sanjukta Mataji, Sadatushta Prabhu, Tarini Mataji, Venkata Narsimha Prabhu, and all devotees. Whenever you are ready, Prabhuji's Mataji, you can raise your hand. Okay, and anyone has any query about the task, you can feel free to ask. I can explain again. Whenever anyone is giving answer, do try to point out any specific verse or purport you are referring to. Do we need more time, Prabhuji's Matajis? Everyone?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I got only 5 points. I mean, if I
Okay.
could, I would have got more.
No problem. So whatever time limitations, thank you. So you can raise your hand if you are ready with your 5 points. Okay, even if somebody is ready with lesser points, that is fine. But I just want to see if devotees have understood the practical applications of these principles that we discussed, that Parikshit Maharaj used to keep the Kali away. And we can deploy it in our own life as well. Adidev Gopesh Prabhu, Hare Krishna. You are ready? Divya Rukmini Mataji, Gita Mataji, Gunavati Mataji, Mamta Mataji. Actually, I want to ask devotees who have not spoken. So if you don't raise hands, I will have to ask taking your name. Hare Krishna. So don't worry about being right or wrong. Nobody is judging you. This is all for our own practical application. So maybe we will request devotees one by one. Hare Krishna. Reena Mataji, you would like to start any practical means that you felt based on the verses that we discussed?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare
In
Krishna.
25th verse, I got one point, Prabhuji.
Okay.
In the end of the purport, Srila Prabhupada is telling that the revival of Bhagavata Dharma can save human civilization from falling prey to evils of all description. So if we surrender to Lord Krishna, so then we can be saved from the effects of Kali, Prabhuji.
Okay. So what practical means can we take? Based how, say for example, if you are the leader of the family, what practical means you can consider to protect the family members from evils of Kali
Yes,
Yuga?
Prabhuji, that Kali Yuga Dharma is chanting, Prabhuji. Like, so I have to chant myself first, then I have to ask my
Encourage your family
encourage
members.
my household householders to chant, Prabhuji. Then
Thank you.
I can,
Thank
yeah, prasadam, Krishna prasadam, I can give it to them.
Okay. Okay. So Mataji mentioned chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and Srila Prabhupada also mentions chanting as a sacrifice which is practical in this age. No other sacrifice is as practical and effective. And prasadam. Okay. Maybe we'll cover few more points. Thank you, Reena Mataji. Tarini Krishna Kanta Mataji, please unmute.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Panchanga pranams.
Hare Krishna Dandas Mataji. Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, to establish the dharma, we have to follow scriptures in a text. It's there, and
Sorry,
in
which text?
38 and 33 is also there, Prabhuji. Like truthfulness, we have to follow, and so that if we please Lord Krishna, according to scriptures, Kali can't enter into our home.
Thank you. So we have to follow the principles of religion. Specifically, Srila Prabhupada mentions in one of the purports, truthfulness as one of the most important principles of religion. And also that is the pillar of religion which is still existing to some degree. Maybe it is tottering, but that is the only pillar that is remaining in Kali Yuga. So we have to follow those principles strictly. Thank you. Thank you, Tarini Krishna Kanta Mataji. We'll request few other devotees. Gunavati Jayashree Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Pranam Prabhuji.
Yes.
Prabhuji, yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in the text 27, it is mentioned about systematically teaching of Srimad Bhagavatam. So it is like in the house, if we reach Srimad Bhagavatam, so even if other people who are not inclined towards it, by listening to the Srimad Bhagavatam classes and reading Srimad Bhagavatam together, like trying to do that. But I heard like when we had gone for Yatra to Vrindavan last time, so on our way back, like that time I was a very neophyte, like I still am a neophyte, but very new to all this scriptures and all. So that time there was a family who were taking their, I just remember this, they were taking this, they take their Lord to Vrindavan and they stay there for a month and all. So when we were traveling in trains, this family, the father and mother, they were there with their Lord in that. And when speaking to them, they said that every night the whole family reads Srimad Bhagavatam together. So I was very inspired by them, like, and I was hoping that, I could follow that my family members could also read together the Srimad Bhagavatam. So that was very, that is also mentioned in text 27, where we have to teach the Srimad Bhagavatam. So at least, because when we listen to it, we will understand and we will be able to, understand what we need to do in this particular Kali Yuga out there.
Thank you, Gunavati Mataji. So very nice. And one very similar encouraging example of a devotee couple I can share with all of you. His Grace Jayanitaya Prabhu and his good wife, Her Grace Bhava Bhakti Mataji. So Jayanitaya Prabhu was earlier temple president of ISKCON Soho Street, London. And both of them are such a wonderful devotee family that they make it a point that husband, wife, every day they will say, for example, they will take out some time. Mataji is working, Prabhuji is also busy. But husband, wife, they will take out some time to visit a park or to visit a place, find a bench to sit, and husband, wife both will read Srimad Bhagavatam for say 20-30 minutes and discuss. And they put it on Facebook Live. So whoever are their contacts, they will also get to see it on a daily basis, what particular topic they discussed or they are discussing if devotees are available live. So we can find the details that suit ourselves, that suit our family, but we should make it a point to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam some way or another. I remember like when I got married and she came in touch with devotees after our marriage. So as a bedtime story daily, we would read few verses and discuss. And at that time, her understanding was basic, but still, even as a story form, she heard definitely Bhagavatam will act. So even if we don't have purity, let Bhagavatam do its magic. We should try to find a convenient way. So maybe we'll request few more devotees. Rohini Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, did you call my name?
Yes, yes, Mother. So any other means you want to suggest for us to keep Kali out?
Yes, Prabhuji. One is in Shloka 38. It states exactly where Kali Purusha will exist during Kali Yuga. And I feel at least devotees who have children, it is quite like in the Kali Yuga, it is quite a difficult task of not getting them influenced by various means, social media, movies, whatever it is. So at least at home, we should give an example to the kids by first making sure we ourselves restrict from all these places where Kali resides, and also tell them like why this is bad, because they would have got influenced throughout, like their school or people they meet or whatever it is. So at least they should know what is right, what is wrong, so that they don't get influenced by all these factors. And second one, what we do in the family, I'm just sharing, like reading Bhagavatam or reciting Bhagavad Gita shlokas. We do it once in a while, but in the night every day we put Krishna to sleep, doing Sankirtana, Nama Sankirtana with all the musical instruments, and each one takes up one musical instrument, and we give chance to chant and swing the Krishna. So that way we are building up that Sankirtana in the house itself, even if we don't get time to do it like every day at times. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So a family which prays together stays together. So, and what Mataji mentioned earlier, one of the best service we can render to children or other household family members is by setting up a good example in front of them. So maybe we'll request a couple of more devotees. Lalita Vinodini Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yeah, similar points only I wrote. See, I didn't go by verse, but with whatever you have discussed from that, I just we should first of all we should cultivate a Brahminical culture. It's a Brahminical culture is like to protect cows and bulls and all, like animals in general, and Brahmanas, especially the learned Brahmanas, we should start respecting and should adhere to the rules, and we should start respecting and stop buying so much of gold. Like you said, it's females weak point. No, it's no more, it's not anymore, Prabhuji, but then it is there when our culture, it's our custom itself says that when it comes to marriage and all that, it is expected, the groom, the bride has to have so much, and even they give some gifts to groom also in gold. When that need to be controlled. And then again, the gambling and, slaughterhouses has to be stopped. And once you stop eating the meat and all, eating meat and other non-veg stuff, so slowly, the things, that business will also come down. That's what I feel. And then it's starting, more of devotional services at home, like what Mataji said, like with family, once you start, either family or at least you yourself start doing all that, people will get attracted. They will come to know exactly how it is to be followed. And once you taste a good, it's a better taste. Slowly the lower taste, even as a family, like householder, when they want to have children, of God conscious children, Krishna conscious children, then only they will enter into all that. Otherwise, for them, it doesn't matter at all. For them, doesn't taste anymore, best, so because they've already tasted the better other taste, like devotional taste, so they will not like to have a bodily comfort or anything like that. So in
very
general,
important. Yes, Mataji, please go ahead.
Yeah, that's all, Prabhuji.
Thank you. So very important point Lalita Vinodini Mataji mentioned, that to develop higher taste as a family, and once our mind is stuck at a higher taste, then the lower forms of enjoyment we would not crave for, we would not be attached to. So very important for the devotees. So maybe we will request one or two more devotees. Venkata Narsimha Prabhu, Hare Krishna, you had earlier raised your hand. And see, these devotees like Prema Priya Mataji, Venkata Narsimha Prabhu, KK Mukherjee Prabhu, PS Murthy Prabhu, They have seen life much
Hare Krishna.
greater degree. Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji.
Krishna Mataji, Prabhuji,
Yes.
women must be allowed to hold only by quantity, not by quality, so that gold existence with the family will be limited, and it will discourage the lust, enmity, and envy, so that they can live in a peaceful way.
Yes, Prabhuji.
And another thing is people who are leading, that is public leaders, sannyasis or brahmanas, should be away from all these religious practices, so that the public will follow them generally. So that is also important for their character and for the follow-up of the people.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So, public leaders should always have exemplary character in their personal lives. Then it will be setting the right role model. So, maybe 1 minute, Prema Priya Mataji, you want to share few points? Then we
Yes,
share
Prabhuji.
this.
Generally, Prabhuji, if we emphasize on simple living and high thinking for our children, and we first follow ourselves and inculcate in our children, I think lots of these things could be mitigated, Prabhuji.
Yes, so not keep too much of a pompous or pampering life for the children. Keep things very simple. And there is very famous concept nowadays of minimalistic living. Minimalistic living means keeping our needs very limited, not increasing the needs.
Yes.
And it is mentioned that, I don't exactly recollect the English statement, but the meaning is, if our enjoyment is inexpensive, then things will be much more simpler. That means we don't have to really crave for hi-fi life. Otherwise, it increases the demand. So let me just go back to the slide, what I had jotted it down. So diligently maintain the principles of religion, namely the pillars: austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. Follow strictly the 4 regulatory principles. Follow the 5 potent forms of devotional service that Srila Prabhupada has automatically given us in the form of morning program. All 5 are covered properly. Do not accumulate gold in large quantity if we want to keep Kali out. Protect Dharma and Mother Earth. There is a very famous statement, Dharmo Rakshati Rakshitaha. That means if we protect the principles of religion, when we are in trouble, religion will protect us. Very important. And in a practical means also, wherever possible, try to like go to Goshala, adopt cow if you want, along with the other charity that the householders are doing. But make sure that these important elements of society, the brahmanas, women, old men, young children, and cows, these 5 elements of the society are well protected. And use one's wealth for systematic propagations of the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. There are so many options for this. Say on Bhadra Purnima every year, there are so many sets being distributed. We can sponsor some of those sets for those people who cannot afford, for example. Or we can give to our near and dear ones. And each and every family must have Srila Prabhupada's book full set in our home. Minimum Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrut, all these. So we are at a Bhakti Vaibhav level. Minimum Bhagavad Gita, entire Srimad Bhagavatam set, hard copies, they should be available. Sometimes devotees are very fond of soft copies, which is fine, but keep the hard copy book sets. Whoever visits your home, they can easily get their hands on those books. Children can naturally develop habit of reading. And with this, we conclude our discussion on this very important chapter, the punishment and reward meted out to Kali Purusha by Parikshit Maharaj. So we are almost approaching the concluding part of Canto 1, where next we will discuss the Parikshit Maharaj being cursed by the Brahmana boy, Shringi, and appearance of Shukadev Goswami, appearance of Srimad Bhagavatam. So this forms the last part of the secondary inquiries made by the sages of Naimisharanya to Suta Goswami. the birth and activities of the hearer of Srimad Bhagavatam. And yes, any questions, comments? Prabhuji's, Mataji's, my apologies. Today we went 10-11 minutes overboard. So if there are any questions, quick one we can take. If not, we will conclude.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can you explain the verse 23?
23, yes, Mataji. I saw that message. Let me go back to the text.
Sure.
Okay, so the background to this particular text 23, here when Parikshit Maharaj is asking Bull about the cause of his misery and the suffering, the Bull is refusing to give Kali Purusha as the cause of its distress, its suffering. And while explaining that, the Bull mentions to Maharaj Parikshit that some philosophers mentions that body is the cause, some philosophers mentions that the providence is the cause, some philosophers mention that the three modes of material nature as the cause. And finally, he mentions that, so my dear king, you understand for yourself what is the cause. And there Srila Prabhupada mentions that indirectly the dharma is saying that Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause. That is the understanding of a devotee. So in this verse, 23rd verse, it is mentioned that if the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of what is being meted out to us in our life, then why don't hold him responsible? Why the devotees even do not consider Supreme Lord individually as a person responsible for whatever we are facing in our life? And in order to explain that, Srila Prabhupada mentions that whatever happens in our life, Krishna has much better or much more important things to do than give anyone benefit or the distress. That is all taken care by his Maya Shakti, by his material energy. They are the ones who keep all the calculations and make sure that a person is rewarded or is given distress in a sufficient quantity. So why not to blame the Supreme Lord? Because his energies are running the world. This is one thing. And second thing that we discussed is ultimately Krishna is granting the reactions for our good or the bad activities based on two things, based on the desires that we nourished in our life and based on the activities that we conducted based on those desires. So while during this discussion, we also mentioned Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, in which the actions in Krishna consciousness, Karma Yoga, are mentioned. Krishna specifically mentions that although I am granting the wish, ultimately the karta is the soul. He will have to bear the consequences because we have desired a particular thing. So that's why the bull or the devotee in general refuses to hold Krishna as a personally accountable. Krishna's grant, his sanction is there, but he is not personally accountable for our difficulties and distresses in life. It is Krishna's energy who deal with it, and ultimately those energies are dealing based on what we have desired in the past. Is that all right, Mataji?
Clear, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji's, Mataji's. We'll stop here. Vamcha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, वैष्णव ठाकुर की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Pranam Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare
Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare 1 minute. So
Pranam,
PS Murthy Prabhu, you wanted to ask something?
No, Prabhu. I just wanted to say thank you very much for the wonderful class today.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji.
The 4 principles that we described also comes in 3rd Canto, chapter 12, as 4 social orders. I think we will come when we come there.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next week, Prabhuji, exam.
Unit test, if all of you are good, we will have it next week. Okay? So I would let Rasarangini Mataji finalize on that and then wait for her message.
Thank you.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat. Hare